I'm Andrew Joseph Keith. I'm a professional sculptor and online sculpting instructor, and in this video I'm going to be talking about how to master the art of sculpture. Sculpting is a form of three-dimensional art that involves shaping and molding various materials such as clay, metal, wood, or stone into forms and figures. Sculpting can be a rewarding and expressive hobby, or even a career for anyone who loves to create with their hands. In this video, I will share with you some of the tips and tricks on how to get started with the basic sculpting and how to improve your skills and techniques. Let's begin. Learn the basics of sculpture. Before you dive into sculpting, it's important to learn some fundamental concepts and principles such as form, proportion, balance, texture, and perspective. You can learn these by studying different types of sculpture, from classical to contemporary, and observing how they use shape, space, light, and shadow to create visual effects. You can also learn from books, online courses, or tutorials that cover basic sculpting principles. My favorite book on sculpting is Modeling and Sculpting the Human Figure by Edward Lantieri. This is a great book. I got it on eBay for like $6. Great resource for learning sculpture. As far as online courses, I definitely recommend my sculpting course, the Proco Figure Sculpting Fundamentals course, as well as the Portrait Sculpting course, which can also be found over at proco.com. The free lessons for those courses can be found on the Proco 3D YouTube channel, so if you like sculpting, definitely subscribe to that channel. I also really like the content put out by Eric Arneson on his YouTube channel. We're so lucky to live in a time when there's so many different resources for any skill you can imagine. Next, choose your medium. Sculpting can be done with a variety of materials, each with its own characteristics, advantages, and challenges. Some of the most common mediums for sculpting are clay, metal, wood, and stone. Clay is a soft and pliable material that can easily be shaped and molded by hand or tools. Depending on the type of clay, it can be fired in a kiln or baked in an oven, or you can make a mold and then cast several identical versions of the same sculpture. Stone is a solid and heavy material that can be chiseled, chipped, or drilled into different forms. It can also be polished or roughened to create different effects. As technology improves, you can even do digital sculpting and then print your sculptures using 3D printers. If I had to choose my favorite material once the sculpture is finished, it would have to be stone, particularly marble, just like the ancient sculptors used with the weight and the presence that a well-done marble sculpture has. Especially when you can carve things like flesh or drapery and make something as hard as stone feel soft and organic. Get the right tools. Depending on your medium and style of sculpting, you'll need different tools to help you shape and refine your sculptures. The most important tool to master first is, of course, your hands and fingers. Sculpting builds up that dexterity and hand-eye coordination, and the more you do it and the more you use your hands, the quicker you'll be able to shape things into forms that you want to create. When sculpting in clay, for example, I recommend that students do as much as they can by hand before introducing other tools. One of my favorite tools is this little metal tool that's kind of got a spatula type end, one that's a little bit fatter on one side and then the other side's a little bit thinner. I got this from eBay. It came in a set, but this one was my favorite and it's the one that I use most often to refine and define the final surface texture of the sculpture. Loop tools can also come in handy. This is a homemade loop tool. I show you my process for making this loop tool over on the Proco 3D YouTube channel in the video covering sculpture tools. It's pretty easy to make, just a ballpoint pen, some epoxy, and paper clips or paper clamps for the tool bit. So if you're interested in that, check out that video. Depending on the material, you may also need safety equipment, goggles, masks, aprons to protect yourself. This is especially true if you're sculpting in wood. Generally, wood sculpting tools are very dangerous. If it can cut through wood, it can cut through you, so just be careful as you're sculpting. Practice your skills. The best way to master the art of sculpting is to practice as much as you can. Start with simple shapes and forms that you can easily make with your medium and tools. When doing additive sculpture, like sculpting with clay where you add on the material, I always recommend starting thin and very simple and then slowly building out the thickness and details with small pieces of clay. Experiment with different techniques and effects that you can create with your sculptures. Try to replicate existing sculptures that you admire, or create your own original designs. Challenge yourself to make more complex and detailed sculptures as you progress. Seek feedback from other sculptors or art lovers who can offer constructive criticism and advice on how to improve your work. If you're interested in joining my Patreon for $15 a month, at that level you can get specific feedback on your sculptures from me. You can find that over at patreon.com/AndrewJosephKeith. Learn from the masters. Another way to master the art of sculpting is to learn from the masters who have achieved excellence in this field of study. Study their works and try to understand the methods and motivations behind their sculptures. Learn about their influences and inspirations that shaped their artistic vision. Read their biographies and interviews to gain insight into their personal stories and experiences as sculptors. Watch videos or attend their workshops if possible to see them in action and learn from their demonstrations. I hope this video has given you some useful tips and tricks on how to master the art of sculpting. Sculpture is a rewarding and enjoyable activity where you can unleash your creativity and express your personality. With practice and patience, you can become a skilled and confident sculptor. Sculpting is not easy. It's not easy to do well. So if you want an easier artistic outlet, do something abstract, lots of colors or paints or something like that. Sculpture is a challenge, but if you're up for a challenge, I think it's well worth the effort. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos on art and creativity. Be sure to check out the sculpting courses that I teach over at Proko.com. Stay creative, stay productive. I'll see you in the next video.
Non più tra i farfalloni amoroso, notte e giorno di torno girando, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a Tocino d'amor.